Alright everybody, we are back this week for UFC 325, Volkanovski versus Lopes 2, taking place February 1st. Well, it says Sunday, February 1st, but I think that's because it's in Australia. It's actually going to be on Saturday, January 31st. So that's just more of a Google thing, you know, based on where the arena is at and located. But in the main event, we have a battle for the featherweight championship of the world, a rematch between the champion and Alexander the Great Volkanovski, taking on the man coming off of a knockout win over Gene Silva in Diego Lopes. So without any further ado, let's get this started and step into the ring. I'll touch a little bit on UFC 324. I mean, it was our first event back. I thought it was pretty good. I didn't think it was amazing, but I thought it was pretty decent. And the main event surprised me. But if you really go back and listen to my breakdown, like, listen, I didn't have a lot of faith in Justin Gaethje. But I did say, and you can quote me on it, if the fight stays on the feet and Paddy doesn't grapple, he's going to get the shit beat out of him. And he'll land some good shots here and there. You know, he had some good flurries with, 3 or 4 punches. He had that good switch to southpaw uppercut that he threw up the middle to kind of get that outside angle on Gaethje. But I think what really happened, and you can correct me if I'm wrong or have differing opinions. Obviously, this is a game of opinions. But I think the way he got dropped that first time, I know it was more like a body shot, etc. But I think he was kind of on autopilot for the majority of that fight after the first round. And it's not so much based off of just the first knockdown. I think those 2 or 3 ground and pound shots that came at the end when Gaethje was on top of him, just wailing with those big shots, I think that put Paddy on autopilot for all 5 rounds. So I kind of give him a little bit of a pass. I think it was stupid to not grapple, but I kind of feel like maybe he couldn't grapple because he got rocked so bad that he couldn't really grab a hold of him. And that's kind of what I think happened. Obviously, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we're supposed to get now Gaethje versus Topuria. I like that fight. Obviously, Gaethje's got a better chance than we originally thought, but I still don't think he has much of a chance. I think Topuria knocks Gaethje out and does so pretty early and pretty violently. But, I mean, either way, we got to talk about this card. Back-to-back pay-per-views, even though we can't really call it pay-per-view anymore, right? It's a premium live event, taking the words right out of the WWE. It's not really a pay-per-view anymore because they're on Paramount Plus. But, yeah, let's get into it. And we are going to break down the Road to UFC fight. So let's start off with that one. All right, so the first fight up is going to be the bantamweight final for the Road to UFC. And we've got Sulangranbo taking on Lawrence Louis. This is one that I think is probably one of the closest fights during the Road to UFC finals. Sulangranbo is a very patient and long striker. He fights behind his straight punches, and that's really the majority of his game. Like, he has decent takedown defense. He can, avoid a lot of the wrestling and things like that. But I think the number one thing that can win him this fight is the range management. Is whoever's dictating the range, I think, is who wins this fight. And if Sulangranbo can keep Lawrence Louis at the end of his straight punches, at the end of his jab, if he can set up the right hand behind the jab, if he can double and triple the jab and follow with the right hand, I think that he's got a very good possibility of not only beating Lawrence Louis, but knocking him out. But again, if Lawrence Louis can get past those straight punches, if he can get on the inside, if he can get to that over-under position, if he can break off the clinch with uppercuts and overhands, if he can dirty box Sulangranbo, if he can land good knees to the body and change levels, pairing it up with the takedowns, then I feel like the pressure and the dirty boxing and the inside fighting of Lawrence Louis can kind of take over the fight when we get into the midpoint of the second round and going forward. So I think it's going to be the pressure and the wrestling and the cage pushing of Lawrence Louis with striking off the break versus the range management, the straight punches, and, you know, the simple basic combinations, the 1-2 rip to the body, following up with a kick to the body, that can win the fight for either guy. I'm going to take Sulangranbo. I picked Lawrence Louis in his other 2 fights, and it would probably be a good idea to take him here, but just based off what I've seen, I feel like Sulangranbo can hurt Lawrence Louis, and based on the fact that he kind of guards and shells up and tries to walk forward and has to really get into range in order to land his counters, I feel like he's going to have a hard time, and I think there's a big speed advantage on the side of Sulangranbo, and I think the jab and the cross, the 1-2, the straight punches down the middle really are going to win this fight for Sulangranbo. Do I think he gets a finish? I think it's possible. I think he can hurt him with a right hand. I think he can set up with the jab and follow up with a left hook and possibly hurt him. But, I mean, I wouldn't count Lawrence Louis out. He's good. He was getting pieced up by I think it's Van Niem, or Niem Van, something like that. He was getting pieced up, outgunned, outstruck, just on the back foot, but he stayed patient. I feel like being patient is important in this fight, but he has to be patient and pressure and kind of make it dirty when he gets the chance to cut off the cage and get on the inside. I just think it's going to be pretty hard against a guy like Sulangranbo, who is so long, so quick, so clean with his straight punches. I think he's just going to kind of pick him off. I'm going to go Sulangranbo by decision. I think he wins 29-28 unanimous decision. I could see a finish on either side. I would say that if it's a later finish, it's probably Louis getting to Sulangranbo with the pressure and pushing him up against the cage and cutting him off and catching him with a shot, just like he did to Van Niem. But I'm going to say that Sulangranbo stays long, stays crisp, stays patient, and doesn't allow for Louis to get on the inside. So give me Sulangranbo, 29-28 unanimous decision here. All right, next fight up, we've got probably one of my favorite fights for the road to UFC finals in the featherweight division. You've got Kichiro Nakamura taking on Sebastian Szalay. I think it's Szalay. Yeah, I love this fight. I think both of these guys are crisp and clean strikers. I would give the speed advantage to Nakamura. He landed a vicious knee on the road to UFC, the first fight that he had. Landed a vicious knee right up the middle, caught his opponent, knocked him out. He's very fast. He's very quick. He throws good kicks to the body. He could throw southpaw shots, you know, stepping in with that straight left hand, landing the 1-2 down the middle. And he has pretty good cardio. You know, you would think for a guy who's very quick twitch and explosive that he would slow down later on in the fight. He actually is able to kind of manage his gas tank pretty well and still keep the speed when it gets to that 10, 11, 12 minute mark and so on and so forth. I believe Sebastian Szalay to be probably one of the most crisp fighters we've seen between the road to UFC and the Contender Series. I'm not saying the guy's going to be amazing in the UFC. I'm not going to say that he's going to have so much success, but I think that he's going to outgun Nakamura here. I think that he is better at managing the distance. I think he's better at managing the range. I think he's going to have a little bit of an adjustment to the speed of Nakamura, but at the same time, I feel like Szalay is going to be able to walk his way into range, get that outside foot on Nakamura, bang the right hand, land the jab. I think he's got a good left hook. He cuts angles very well. But the one thing I like about him so much is I feel like even though he has quick twitch with his combinations, he seems to be very calm and very patient. And I think Nakamura, he is patient and calm and has good cardio, but I feel like he's so quick twitch and explosive that sometimes he can kind of overreact to certain strikes, which can leave himself open for good counters. And that's something I don't think you want to do against a guy like Sebastian Szalay. I think that he's got good enough range and distance control. He throws a good jab, a good 1-2 down the middle. We saw him land that left hook early on in the first round and knock his opponent out. And not only did he land the right hand to the left hook, he landed the right hand and cut the angle, almost throwing it as like a check hook, and dropped his opponent and put him out. I think Nakamura, even if he loses this fight, will find his way into the UFC. So I don't really think that, Nakamura loses this fight to Szalay and then we're never going to see him again. I think we're going to see Kichiro Nakamura in the UFC following him losing this fight, because my prediction is going to be Sebastian Szalay. I just think he's crisper. I think he's cleaner. I feel like he can get into more of a flow state than Nakamura, and I think it's just going to be hard for Nakamura to be super explosive and quick twitch against a guy like Szalay, who has such good counters, especially with the boxing, but he has good kicks as well to the legs, to the body, and to the head, and he manages his range. I think that this fight's going to be close, but I think eventually, Sebastian is going to just land that right hand right down the middle, and I think he's going to put Nakamura down and finish him off. So I'm going to go Sebastian Szalay to win via second-round TKO here against Keiichiro Nakamura. And I'm a big fan of Nakamura. I liked him in his first fight in the road to UFC, and I believe he came in as an underdog when he got that KO. I liked him there. I think that this fight is competitive. I think it's close. I think both guys are good. I think both guys are UFC level. I don't know about top contender level, but they're both UFC level. But I'm going to say that the counter-striking of Szalay is just going to be too sharp for Nakamura, and I think Nakamura is going to be too overreacting on the feints, and I think he's going to get hit with that right hand and put down. So give me Sebastian Szalay, round 2 TKO in this fight. All right, and then the last road to UFC fight we're going to break down is in the lightweight division. You have a battle between Sang-Woo Kim taking on the Street Buddha Dam Mar Fan. I got to toot my own horn a little bit. I was on the plus 450 underdog in Dam Mar Fan against Eugene Efefaga, I believe his name is. And everybody was all over that big favorite. He's going to make it look easy. He's going to this. He's going to that. And Dam Mar Fan took the life out of that guy and broke him. He broke Eugene Efefaga. And Efefaga was, I believe, pretty hyped up going into that fight. He comes into his next fight, does the same thing. And he, again, I feel like he can kind of do a similar thing here. But Sang-Woo Kim, man, this guy is a zombie. He comes forward. He's got good straight punches, 1-2s, ripping shots to the body, and he's got a very good grappling game. He's very strong from the top. He's very good at getting into the crucifix position. And this guy can float. I saw him do something on his last road to UFC fight before he got to the finale, where he took the backside crucifix, and then the guy went to roll over, and he actually transitioned into a regular crucifix from the top side. And I thought that was pretty slick, because he didn't really break position even when the opponent, rolled out and was able to get to his back. Usually when that happens, guys will try to step over into mount and maybe give their opponent too much space, and then they can hip out or turn over onto all fours and get back up. But this guy didn't even allow his opponent to do much of anything. I do believe that Sang-Woo Kim gets hit a lot. He's not the greatest defensively. He gets cracked. He gets hit. But I feel like he's going to be much better on the feet than Dam Mar Fan. It's just going to be a case of kind of what's been the case in every Dam Mar Fan fight, is can he just eventually get to Sang-Woo Kim? Can he keep on pushing? Can he keep on pushing the pace and break Sang-Woo Kim later in the fight? I got to be honest. I don't know if he's going to be able to do that to Kim. I don't know. I think that this is a tough fight. I think on the feet, Dam Mar Fan doesn't have much of anything for Sang-Woo Kim. I think Sang-Woo Kim can kind of beat him up on the feet, land good shots to the body, land elbows, land uppercuts, land straight punches, push him against the fence. But the question is he going to be able to control Dam Mar Fan on the ground? I got to be honest, I don't think he can. So I think on the ground, the person who's going to have better control, better offense, and better submission attempts is Dam Mar Fan. On the feet, I think it's all Sang-Woo Kim. He lands good jabs, good straights, good ripping to the body. He has good takedowns from inside the clinch. He's got good dirty boxing. He pushes a good pace. I think this fight is 51-49 to who I think is going to win. Now, the fight could play out completely different and be completely dominant on one end or the other. But I think this, besides the Sebastian Szalay fight, is one of the best fights of the night between Sang-Woo Kim and Dam Mar Fan. I believe Sang-Woo Kim's nickname is the Frogman, and Dam Mar Fan's nickname is the Street Buddha. So we got the Frogman versus the Street Buddha. I mean, this is a great fight. This is a great fight, and it is striker versus pressure grappler. And for my pick, I'm taking the Street Buddha to win by decision. I think Dam Mar Fan is going to just outwork Sang-Woo Kim. And he's going to look like he's losing. He's going to look like he's getting tired. He's going to get hit with some big shots on the feet. But I think eventually he's just going to be able to overwhelm Sang-Woo Kim in the late portions of the second and the third round. And I think he's going to eke out a split decision. I don't think it's going to be unanimous. I think Sang-Woo Kim's going to hurt Dam Marfan. I think he's going to land big shots on the feet. But I think Dam Marfan is just going to do what the Street Buddha does. He's going to get into those over-under clinch positions. He's going to land those inside and outside trips. He's going to not give his opponent any space on the top. And eventually, I think he's just going to get that control, land his ground and pound, look for submissions and not get them, but be so active in the grappling in the later portions of the fight that he's going to eke out 2 rounds. So my pick is Dam Marfan to win the lightweight road to UFC finals via 29-28 split decision. And now we'll get on to the main fights for this card. All right, up next we got a battle in featherweight division between Khan Ofli taking on Yi Jia. This is an interesting fight. I know I say that a lot. I should really change up my verbiage for this, right? Like, this is an interesting fight. This is a good one. This is a pretty good one. I think that this is going to be the tits, okay? This is going to be the tits. Khan Ofli versus Yi Jia. I got to go Yi Jia, guys. I mean, listen, I know he's minus 200. A couple days ago, he was minus 190. So a lot of money's been coming in on the favorite. And I understand why, because I don't think Khan Ofli can really do anything to Yi Jia on the feet. But he's great at getting control on the ground. He's great with takedowns. He's great at taking the opponent's back. And we've seen Yi Jia get his back taken. We've seen Yi Jia get put into compromising positions, get put into the body triangle. And that's what Khan Ofli does. He's strong. He comes forward. He looks for takedowns, and he looks to take your back, put in the body triangle, rough you up, and look for a rear naked choke. He got it against... I'm going to say this. I think that these two fighters' last fights before this one are some of the most comparable fights we've ever had in the UFC. We had Ricardo Ramos taking on Khan Ofli. Ofli was the underdog. Ofli comes in, takes his back, chokes him out immediately, makes him quit. Yi Jia comes in against Weston Wilson. Yi Jia by knockouts, like plus 250. And he clearly knocks out Weston Wilson, who has specks of a chin. His chin is literally the dust from a Fun Dip packet, and you touch him with one shot and it explodes. And he knocked him out. And Yi Jia is not really known as, much of a striker. He's more a grappler. Now, if we look at these guys' records, I'm going to pull these up for you really quick. Just give me 1 second. So 26-5 for Yi Jia. He's got 14 submissions and 6 KOs. So he's got 20 finishes out of 26 wins. He's only been submitted 1 time. Khan Ofli, his really only path to victory is via submission. So I've seen the guy get his back taken. I've seen the guy get controlled. I've seen him get put in a body triangle. That's all bad news against a guy like Ofli, whose primary win condition is grappling, forward pressure, top pressure, and looking to set up submissions. I think it's possible that Khan Ofli could win a positional and control-based decision if he's able to just control him in the positions but not get off any subs. Kind of like you saw Islam Makhachev do against Volkanovski in the first fight, where he controlled his back and held him there for a long time but didn't really do anything off the back. I'm not comparing Ofli to Makhachev, but you know the comparison I have there. Yi Jia is much better on the feet, and the fact that he has the grappling to go along with it, I don't really see him getting submitted by Khan Ofli. And if he's not getting submitted, I think he's winning. I'm going to take Yi Jia to win by knockout. I don't know what the number's going to be. I think at minus 200, you're getting a pretty good deal on the guy. I think people might be a little worried about it because we've seen him get his back controlled. We've seen him get put in the body triangle, and we've seen him get held there. So that can be an issue against a guy who's primarily a grappler, who's primarily looking to take your back. But I just think Ofli has nothing to offer on the feet, and I don't see him just sticking to him for 15 minutes or sticking to him enough to get a submission against a guy who's got 20 wins by way of freaking submission, or 14. What is it, 6 KOs and 14 subs? Yeah, 14 subs. I got to go Yi Jia here. I think he wins. I think he wins based on the damage he does on the feet, and I'm going to say he knocks out Khan Ofli. Give me Yijia to win. I'm going to take him round 2 TKO. I think he can even win a damage-based decision where it looks like Ofli is going to win because of the ground control and the positional control, but the damage is from Yijia and Yijia wins. So give me Yijia, second round TKO. I think he knocks out Ofli, who doesn't have much of anything on the feet. And yeah, that's going to be my pick. All right, the next fight up is in the welterweight division. You got a battle between Jonathan, the captain, Micallef, taking on Oban, the Welsh gangster, Elliot. I cannot talk today. Who the hell is the Welsh gangster? But either way, we've broke this fight down before. This fight was supposed to take place, I don't know, about 4 or 5 months ago, somewhere around there. And I was pretty heavy on Micallef, and I'm going to tell you right now, I'm pretty much in the same boat. I think Oban Elliot can win this fight. Like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you he can't. He is pretty good at coming forward. He's got a good right hand. He can switch stances between orthodox and southpaw. He's got solid grappling from the offensive perspective, but I think his defensive grappling is pretty, I would say, subpar, and I don't think he's going to be able to out-grapple Jonathan Micallef. If you go back and you look at his Contender Series fight, Micallef had one of the slickest transitions to a triangle I've ever seen in mixed martial arts. I want to say he took the guy's back and was beating him up. It was Muhammad Ado, because I remember I was on Muhammad Ado in that fight. Real good pick there, Double M, real good pick. But he's on his back and he's beating him up. He swings his one leg across the shoulder and spins around into a triangle and immediately locks it up, and there's no chance his opponent gets out. It was slick. Go back and look at it. Look up Jonathan Micallef versus Muhammad Ado, ADO, from the Contender Series, and that's what got Jonathan Micallef his UFC contract. Then he comes in as an underdog against Kevin Jousset, tall, long, rangy Sydney striker, and he beats the living shit out of him. Beats him up on the feet, obliterates his body with that left kick, lands it up top to the head, drops him, stays on the outside, skirts along the octagon, and uses his footwork to stay away and stay on the outside. That's one thing I'm a little bit worried about here with Oban Elliot is I don't think sticking and moving on the outside and circling the whole time is really the best way to beat a guy like Elliot, because I think Elliot will eventually get to you. He will eventually cut you off. I feel like we're going to see a Jonathan Micallef who uses more of his grappling in this fight against Elliot. I think he's going to use that left kick to the body. He's going to try to move it, throw it to the body, throw it to the head, and he's going to be skirting and skating along the outside, using his footwork, staying on the outside, and moving away. But I think that's kind of a bad idea over 3 rounds to just hit and move and skate on the outside, because I think eventually, like I said, Elliot will set those traps and cut you off. But I think what we're going to see is a mix of those kicks to the body, the left kick to the head, moving on the outside, check hook, move on the outside, and then he's going to start shooting. And I think we're going to see him mix up the kicks to the body, the left kick to the head, and the takedowns, and kind of use those kicks to close the distance and then shoot off the counters of Oban Elliot. And I think we're going to see him get takedowns, get on the top, beat him up. I'm going to say Jonathan Micallef wins this fight by submission, but I could easily see him winning a decision. I think Oban Elliot can win if he starts to slow down Micallef and starts to pressure him against the fence, land elbows, land knees, and suck the gas tank out of him going into the mid portion of the second and into the third round. So if Elliot wins, I think it's more of forward pressure, breaking down Micallef, slowing him down, and finally getting to him, probably in the third round. I would think maybe a third round TKO. But I'm going to say Micallef mixes it up well, moves on the outside, skirts along the outside, lands that left kick to the head, lands a left kick to the body, circles, changes levels, gets takedowns off the counters that Oban Elliot tries to crash into the pocket with, and I think he eventually sets up a submission. I'm going to go with Jonathan, the captain, Micallef, to defeat Oban Elliot. I'm going to go with a second round rear naked choke submission. You know what? No, we're switching it up. I'm going with a triangle. I'm going to go a second round triangle armbar for Jonathan Micallef over Oban Elliot to go 2-0 in the UFC. And yeah, I think Micallef is the goods. I don't think he'll be a champ, but I think he's pretty damn good. And I think we're going to see a pretty good performance from him here. Give me Micallef, round 2 triangle choke submission. All right, next fight up is in the middleweight division. You got a battle between Rowston taking on Cody Brundage. This is Rowston's second fight officially under the UFC banner, not counting his Contender Series fight. First time he came in, he knocked out Andre Petroski in the first round. We predicted that like butter. We had that going. And, yeah, I got to be honest. I think he does a similar thing here to Cody Brundage. Brundage is the better fighter overall, but he's a mental midget. And I don't like to say that about guys, really, when I break these fights down. Like, you know, they're getting into the cage. They have the courage to step in there. But you got to be honest. Like, Brundage takes these fights for a paycheck. And, okay, he knocked out Julian Marquez, the guy who wanted Miley Cyrus to get a tattoo on her stomach saying the Cuban Missile Crisis. Like, I got to be honest with you guys. I think Cam Rowston, if he doesn't get sparked by a big right hand from Cody Brundage, I think he's going to knock out Cody Brundage in the second round. I think it could be the first. Could be the first. Probably would be the first considering it's Cody Brundage. Brundage is going to look crisp, fast, try to land the right hand, land a left hook, come forward. I think Rowston's going to hit him with one big counter, a big right hand. Brundage is going to cover up. He's going to push him against the fence. He's going to throw a big right hand counter, a big left hook counter. Rowston's going to use that lead hand to measure. Boom, pop the right hand. Boom, pop the right hand. 1-2 down the middle, rip the body, land knees and elbows. The ref's going to stop it. I got Cam Rowston knocking out Cody Brundage. If he doesn't knock him out, I think it's possible he takes him down, beats him up, and then jumps on a submission because Rowston is primarily known as a grappler, but he's developed his striking over at City Kickboxing. I think Rowston uses the length, the reach, stays on the outside, and picks off Cody Brundage and knocks him out. This guy does this for a paycheck. He doesn't want to take these fights serious anymore. I think everybody knows that, and I think Rowston is here to prove a point, and I think he makes a statement by knocking out Cody Brundage. I'm going to go Cam Rowston to win via second round TKO and tell Cody Brundage you can't see me at the end of his bout at 325. So give me Cam Rowston to use the length, use the reach, land a big shot, hurt Brundage, and finish him off with a flurry of strikes, probably up against the cage. I'm going to go Cam Rowston, round 2 knockout here, and we'll move on to the next one. All right, next fight up is in the light heavyweight division. You got a battle between Junior Tafa taking on Billy Elekana. Yeah, I got to go with Elekana here. I mean, there's no reason to sit here and say, oh, Junior Tafa, he's got knockout power, he hits hard. He definitely can knock out Elekana. If he does, it probably has to be in the first, 2 minutes. I mean, I'm just going to be honest. These guys have no grappling. It's like taking down a paper towel. It's like taking down a dead fish. They can't really do much of anything, let alone get up off the ground. Have defensive grappling is out of the question. Obviously on the feet, they have good power. He's got good boxing, solid striking. Could he knock out Elekana? Sure. I think it's definitely a possibility. But, I mean, I think Elekana can even outstrike Tafa, stay on the outside, use the check hooks, use the kicks to the body, use teeps to the body. But I think he's going to do the path of least resistance. If he's smart, he should move around a little bit, time one of those big explosions, level change, takedown, probably goes right into the full mount, beats him up with some ground and pound and gets a rear naked choke. I could even see him beating him up from the mount. Tafa covers up. He gets submitted with an arm triangle. I think either of those are good options, and I think that's how he wins. I mean, I don't want to sit here and be like, oh, he's going to do this, he's going to angle this way. I think the kicks to the body, the kicks to the head are a good weapon from long range. Hope that Tafa gets impatient, comes in, tries to land a big overhand or a big left hook, change levels, take him down, beat him up from the top position. When he goes to get up, just flatten him out, beat him up with ground and pound and submit him. You know if he gets put in a submission, he'll tap almost instantly. So, yeah, give me Billy Elekana, round 1, rear naked choke submission. I think he finds the back and gets that tap pretty quick. So, yeah, Billy Elekana, round 1 submission. Probably rear naked choke. If not, it's an arm triangle. And we'll move on to the next fight. Right, next fight up is in the lightweight division between Rafael Fiziev taking on Mauricio Ruffy. This is a good fight. Again, probably one of my favorite fights on the card. And I think this primarily plays out in the striking. I think if Fiziev is smart, he should look to use some offensive wrestling. We saw him do it against Ignacio Bahamondes. He got a lot of takedowns, got to the top, landed some ground and pound, and was able to mix that in with the striking. I think it's a smart approach here against Ruffy, who really doesn't have much of anything once he gets taken down to the ground. I know he lost to Benoit Saint Denis, and if it's a grappling match, I think Benoit Saint Denis could pretty much do that same thing to Rafael Fiziev on the ground. But realistically, I think this stays a kickboxing match for the majority of it, and I think the guy with the 3-inch length and 3.5-inch reach advantage probably wins the fight more often than not. Or yeah, 3.5-inch reach advantage. I think Ruffy can just kind of outstrike Fiziev. Now, Fiziev is the better, more decorated striker. Ruffy did leave the Fighting Nerds, so you don't know how that's going to play into his new preparation. What's the reasoning behind leaving? Why did he leave the gym? How is his new training going? We don't really have those answers. And when guys leave gyms and go to a new place, you always kind of have to be a little weary when they come into their next fight because you don't know why they left, what the reason is that they left, and what improvements they're going to make. But what I will tell you is, although I think the more technical, cleaner striker is Fiziev, I think he has slowed down a little bit later on in his career. And I think Ruffy is still explosive. He's evasive. He's got very good pull counters. He's got those really good spin kicks, the front kicks to the body. He could slip off the center, counter with the right hand down the middle, pop the 1-2, move around. I think he's going to kind of just outgun Rafael Fiziev in this fight. And if this fight stays on the feet, I think the length, the reach, the distance management is really what's going to win the fight for Mauricio Ruffy. I think that a knockout could come on either side. If Fiziev is able to catch some of those kicks and counter with kicks of his own, if he's able to catch kicks and time a step-in elbow, I think he can have some good success. If he gets on the inside in clinch range, I think he can rough up Mauricio Ruffy on the inside. I just think it's going to be hard for him to close the distance unless he's using that wrestling. Then he gets success with the wrestling, gets Ruffy concerned about the wrestling, and then starts to get on the inside and land that left hook to the body, the right hand over the top, right hand, left hook to the body, right elbow, jab to the body, left hook up top, right hand. I think if he can get on the inside, then he'll have, some good success. But I just don't really think he's going to be able to get on the inside. And I think Fiziev's a great fighter. I love Rafael Fiziev. I've always been a fan of his, and he's one of the best strikers in the world. I mean, freaking coach at Tiger Muay Thai. What more do you got to say? But I think Ruffy is just going to be able to use that length to win this fight. I think he's going to be able to stay at a distance where Fiziev's going to have a hard time closing the distance and crashing the pocket. And if he doesn't use his wrestling, he's going to have a hard time winning. So I'm going to say Ruffy just uses those long-range weapons, those teeps, the jabs, the slip counters with the right hand. We have seen Rafael Fiziev get knocked out with a spinning back kick to the head. That was back early in his UFC career against a guy named Magomed Mustafayev. Ruffy's got a good spinning back kick to the head. Maybe he lands that and knocks him out. I think a knockout on either side is possible. I would say it's more likely that Ruffy finds a KO just because of his countering ability, his slip counters, and the fact he's going to have the distance and reach advantage. But I'm going to say Ruffy just outstrikes Fiziev. I think it's going to be a close fight, but I think Ruffy's just going to be slicker and quicker and use the jab, use the 1-2, and stick on the outside, use his footwork and move, and win this fight via decision. So give me Mauricio Ruffy to win. I'm going to say 29-28 unanimous decision. I think this fight goes all 3 rounds. I think a lot of people are going to be expecting a knockout. I think it's possible, but I think both these strikers will have respect for each other, but it's going to be the slickness, the evasiveness, and the movement of Ruffy that wins this fight by just keeping him behind those long-range weapons. Like I said, the jab, the cross, the front kick to the body, the feints into the right hand, slipping and rolling off. And I think Ruffy wins 29-28 unanimous decision in this fight. All right, next fight up is in the lightweight division between Benoit, the God of War, Saint Denis, taking on Dan, the Hangman Hooker. If you're going to ask me who I'm a bigger fan of in this fight, I'm clearly a bigger fan of Dan Hooker. I like the guy. He's tough. He's a fighter's fighter. He's got good calf kicks, a good jab, a good 1-2. He's got good, front kicks to the body. He really can mix it up on the feet, and he's not a guy who's going to quit. But I just have a terrible feeling that he's going to get finished in the first round by Benoit Saint Denis. I think the knees up the middle for Hooker are a good weapon. I think if he times him coming in, lands a big knee up the middle, that he can definitely win this fight based off that. I think the knees up the middle, the feints, the fakes, feinting coming up the center with that knee is a big weapon that he can use. I think uppercuts are a big weapon. Anything up that center channel against a guy who's going to come forward, look to pressure, look to get in your face and rough you up. I think counter elbows, knees, uppercuts, those are all going to be big weapons for Hooker. But I just feel like he's going to get taken down and, get out. Just get beat the fuck up on the ground. I can't even lie to you. I think Benoit Saint Denis, I don't like the guy, but I know when he's got good matchups, and this is one of them. I didn't expect him to run through Mauricio Ruffy the way that he did. I picked him to destroy Beneil Dariush. He did it. I'm picking him to destroy Dan Hooker here. If this was Hooker from 3-4 years ago, maybe I'd have a different opinion, but I just think this guy is fighting for the love of the game and for money at this point. And I think he's just taking fights to take them. And I think he gets dominated on the ground here by Saint Denis. I think he gets taken down, has nothing much off of his back. He'll probably look to attempt a guillotine like he did against Sarukian. And, look to set up that front choke, the guillotine choke. He's got a solid front choke series. We've seen him get front chokes in the UFC before. So I wouldn't be surprised if he tried to snatch up that guillotine, but I don't think it's going to work. Then he's going to end up on his back. He's going to have a hard time getting up. I think he gets ground and pounded on the top and then just eventually gets trapped in a submission and gets subbed. I think it's a rear naked choke. I think he's beating him up from the top position, goes for an arm triangle. Hooker gets out, turns, gives up his back, beat up with some ground and pound, and then locks up the submission. I'm going to go Benoit Saint Denis, round 1, rear naked choke submission. I think it could happen in round 2. I think if we get to 8 minutes in this fight, 9 minutes, I think that the momentum will start to shift towards Dan Hooker because more than likely the fight is playing out in the striking ranges. And, I think later in the fight in the striking, I think he can take advantage of the defensive irresponsibility that Saint Denis has. And we saw that taken advantage of in multiple fights, mainly the Dustin Poirier fight. But, I got to go Benoit Saint Denis. I got to go the God of War. I'm not the biggest fan of the guy, but I got to pick him here because I think he's going to get on top. I think he's going to beat him up, and I think he's going to submit him. I think it'll look very similar to the Arman Sarukian fight. And, I'm going to go Benoit Saint Denis, round 1, rear naked choke submission. I think it could happen in the second round. I don't think we get to the third round. But, the pick is going to be Benoit Saint Denis to use that grappling and top pressure to soften up Hooker and then submit him with a rear naked choke in round 1. All right, and now we're at the main event of the evening for the featherweight championship of the world between the champion and Alexander the Great Volkanovski taking on the challenger in Diego Lopes. Guys, I got to be honest, I picked Diego in the first fight, and he almost won. He landed a big right hand, dropped Volkanovski at the end of one of the rounds. If that wasn't the end of the round, I think maybe he gets a finish. But I picked Gene Silva to beat Diego Lopes. He was beating him up besides getting taken down and beat up in the first round. But when he got back up, he was piecing him up. Diego still didn't have any head movement. He's keeping his head on the center line, getting picked off with shots. And, he found that spinning elbow, kind of countering the elbows of Gene Silva, with Silva still trying to land those over-the-top elbows and spinning elbows. He timed him coming forward. Spinning elbow knocked him out. I don't think it's a fluke because nothing in fighting is a fluke. You throw a shot and it lands when the opponent's open. So you threw it at a good time and it hit the opponent and knocked him out. TKO more than an actual knockout, but you know what I mean. Volkanovski's the cleaner fighter. He's the better fighter. He has more skills. He's going to be winning the minutes in this fight. He's going to be winning all the rounds. He's got better wrestling, whereas I think Diego has better jiu-jitsu. But Volkanovski has taken a lot of time off, and the last opponent he actually fought was Diego Lopes. So we haven't seen him in the UFC since he fought Diego the last time. Since that fight with Volkanovski, Diego has beat Gene Silva. He got beat up, pieced up, landed the counter. Okay, he won. If Gene Silva won that fight, we're having a different conversation where I think Gene Silva beats the living shit out of Volkanovski and finishes him. But this is a different fight. And the last time I looked stupid picking Diego, I'm going to pick Diego again. I know that when Volkanovski fights in rematches, he always does better. And he wins more convincingly than the last time. So realistically, he should win this fight. But I also know that Volkanovski has said his mental health is not good when he's not fighting. He has issues when he's not fighting, and he uses fighting to get back into the game. I think we're going to see a good version of Volkanovski here. I think he's going to do some things better than the last time that they fought. But I think Diego will find the kill shot this time, and I think he knocks out Volkanovski. Again, would I go and recommend betting on the underdog? No, I actually wouldn't bet this fight at all. Whether you're on Volk, whether you're on Diego, whether you're on doesn't go the distance, I wouldn't bet any of it. Because I think he could go to decision. I think Volk can finish Diego. I think Diego can knock out Volk. I think Diego can submit Volk. And I think it could happen early or late. So a finish could come in any of the rounds, round 1 through round 5. I think Volk is going to be doing much of the same. But I went and rewatched the fight. And the one thing I will say is Diego had a very hard time pulling the trigger on counters in the last fight. And that's why I think Volkanovski had such a good time and such a good performance, because he was able to dictate the pace and kind of pick apart the high guard and defensive shell of Diego without really fearing of any counters coming back. I think Diego is probably going to be less concerned with getting hit by Volkanovski in this fight. And I think that's going to open up the offensive weapons of Lopes. Do I think he's as clean as Volkanovski? No. Do I think he's as technical as Volkanovski? No. Do I think he has more weapons on the feet than Volkanovski? No. Do I think he has better wrestling than Volkanovski? No. But do I think he's going to be able to find home for more counters in this fight? Yes. Do I think he's going to be able to catch Volkanovski on the back foot? Not his back foot, but pushing Volkanovski back on the back foot, causing him to pull back and jab, pull back and hook? I do. And I think when he does, I think he's going to put Volkanovski to sleep. So I think he's going to be more adept at firing counters and less concerned with the defense. I think he's going to be concerned with the defense, but he's going to be concerned with the defense and fire more than just the defense and wait and wait and wait. He's going to be kind of walking him down like he was the last time, getting picked off by Volk, getting hit with some big shots. But I think he's going to close that gap. I think he's going to trap him up against the cage wall. I think he's going to put him into what Eric Nixick likes to call the choke point. And I think he's going to get Volk to throw, and he's going to come back with that right hand over the top of his jab. He's going to come back with a left hook. He's going to slip the inside of Volk's jab and throw an uppercut, follow with the left hook, follow with the overhand right. And I think he's just going to be able to land better counters while trapping Volkanovski up against the fence. He's not going to have a lot of output. He's not going to have a ton of volume. But I think he's going to have the right game plan here, and I think he's going to find a way to push Volkanovski up against that fence, push him back, circle him into the power, and eventually crack him with a big shot and knock him out. So I'm going with the new UFC featherweight champion. I'm going Diego Lopes. It might be a crazy pick considering how the last fight played out and how Volk looks in rematches. I just think he's going to find the shot this time. So give me Diego Lopes. Give me Diego Lopes to push Volkanovski back and counter the counter of Volkanovski. Put him against that choke point, the corners of the fence, and walk him into a big shot and knock him out. Give me Diego Lopes to win via round 2 TKO and become the new UFC featherweight champion. All right, that's it for my UFC 325 Volkanovski versus Lopes 2 preview, predictions, and breakdown. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and lock your favorite submission up on the notification bell so you don't miss any future uploads from the premier mixed martial arts and pro wrestling channel on YouTube. If I'm picking a submission, I'm putting them in that ninja choke, and I'm making you tap that notification bell every single time so you can catch every prediction and every pro wrestling video we put out. I'm your host, Double M. This has been UFC 325 Volkanovski versus Lopes 2 preview, predictions, and breakdown, and I'm out. Let's make some money this weekend.